and welcome to Silverline. And I believe this is our first panel discussion on the platform. Thank you so much for making it happen, for your participation and your presence. Having said that, I would like to pass around the panelists and allow them 30 seconds to introduce themselves and what the film industry means to them. We'll start with ladies first. Khadija, please.
Wow, the first one in the canon. Wish المطلع. Hi guys, my name is Khadija Kudsi. I'm a Saudi Syrian filmmaker. I focus mainly now on documentaries. I did just another accent 3 years ago that went to Malmo and then met the wonderful Abdullah and Mad Solution about stuttering. And then I went and did a film in Nepal about orphanage. And I just wrapped up a film about autism, a short documentary about a little boy whose name is Suhail, which inshallah will be premiering soon. I worked on different advertising, web series. I'm also a children's author. So that's all about me. That's 30 seconds or more.
Almost. Great. Nawaf?
مرحبا. احنا قاعدين نتكلم عربي ولا انجليزي؟
نحن حننقل لان احنا ثقافتنا متعدده.
Okay. Okay. My name is Nawaf Al Janahi. اسمي نواف الجناحي. مخرج سينمائي. أنا مو بشاطر كثير أتكلم عن نفسي، بس يعني سويت مجموعة من الأفلام القصيرة، سويت فيلمين طوال، وقاعد أحضر حق فيلمي الطويل الثالث الآن. وأشتغل on the side أشياء أخرى من قبيل فيلم programming، برمجة الأفلام في events أو لمراكز ثقافية.
ومن بيناتهم كان عندك نيو بلاتفورم that you launched له علاقة بالأفلام القصيرة، بس حنحكي عنه كمان مطولا بالبانل. صالح.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Saleh Nas. I'm a filmmaker based in Bahrain. I co-run a production company here, which allows me to pay my bills so that I can make some films when I'm not working on commercial projects. I'm a writer-director, and I've done a few short films that I've done the festival circuit, TIFF Kids, Montreal World Film Festival, stuff like that. I've been on hiatus for the past couple of years working on my feature film and a TV series. So that's a little bit about
Last but not least, Ahmed.
Yeah. So I'm Ahmed Saleh. Okay, I'm a filmmaker. I don't know really where I come from exactly because I'm originally Palestinian, was born in Saudi Arabia, and I have a Jordanian passport, and now I'm in Germany, and I'm German citizen, so one of these countries. So right now I'm based in Germany, and I started actually as a writer of short stories. And from that book that I created, like a collection of short stories, especially after I lived in Palestine. So I was born in Saudi Arabia, I lived in Palestine for 5 years during the second Intifada, actually. And from these 5 years, many stories I was inspired to write, actually, at the time. And then when I moved to Germany, I studied art after I studied engineering. And from this, I started to make films. And basically, so far, I did 3 or 4 short films for me. And I co-directed and sometimes co-produced. I do commercial films as well. And my job is actually like creative direction, art direction, and advertising. So yeah, actually mostly I did animation, stop motion films, but yes, mostly I try to tell short stories. And also I'm writing now, trying to write my first feature as well. Here's where I am actually.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. All of you have done wonderful work for the past years, but you're all linked with the fact that you started with short film genre. So what does the short film genre mean to you, and why is it important to start with it as opposed to take that jump directly to your feature film? We start with Khadija.
That's a really great question. For me, basically, I would speak about myself because I'm a mother of 4 kids. Basically, it's time. I find short films are much easier to write. I'm going to be very frank. I write my own films as well. I do narratives. It's much easier for me to focus because I wrote a feature film in New York Film Academy 2 years ago, and that took like forever. And that was only the first draft. So I find short films are very concise, especially with the story. I get in, I write it, I get out, I can re-edit it, but the story for me is very clear with short films. Also, when I go filming, it's not more than 5 days for me or 6 days. That's if a narrative. But for documentaries, the past 3 films that I did, it's actually takes a year and a half. Because with documentaries, I don't shot one, you know, I'm shooting a full path. I want to see what the character does for a year. Be it the stuttering, be it the being an orphanage or the autism. I think short films for me, even when I would go on iTunes and watch short films, the Oscars. You know, I'm sitting half an hour, I can watch 5 films, or I'm watching 6 films, I'm getting the stories done. I don't have to be sitting there for 2 hours. So I think this is where the power of short films is, making it and watching it.
So aside from convenience and clarity, if we can wrap this up, Nawaf, for you, short films, was it imperative that you had to start with short films, and what does it mean to you?
Well, يعني, I think what Khadija said is very valid, and I think every filmmaker in a way thinks like that. But I will add on it, in short film is a very unique form of storytelling. And sometimes I underscore that يعني, in my workshops, because many filmmakers tend to not understand that there are 2 forms of storytelling, the short form and the feature form, and they have different structures. You cannot treat يعني الidea هي اللي تقول لك. الidea is the one that dictates, is it really a short form ولا is it a long form? And that has its own structures, and that has its own structures. So to me, honestly, it starts with the idea, and I wouldn't box myself with an idea that feels like a short. I force it to be a feature when it's not. I think that would be limiting. For a filmmaker to يعني تشتغل على شيء قصير وكونسايس. Khadija is amazing, قاعدة تقول لك هذا يعني سهل في الكتابة. Honestly, it's not. I think إن الاختصار وال يعني to hit something very short requires a lot of thinking. But again, different brains. Maybe some people write faster or more creative or find solutions easier than others. But nonetheless, I think it's a very unique very unique form of storytelling, short films.
And Saleh, you've already had 2 successful rounds with short films, and now you're working on your feature films. So do you share the same sentiments toward short films as a genre, or does it mean something else to you?
Thank you, Abdullah. I think I echo some of the sentiment of my colleagues. If we're to define short film as a self-contained narrative that's below 59 minutes, I would say short film is to feature film what the short story is to a novel. They're 2 different things. I personally find it more difficult to write a short film than a feature film. Yes, the latter probably takes longer to develop, but to have, I think after having done 7 short films, approaching it is good because it allows you to experiment with lots of different styles, with finding the message that you want to say, finding a story that will fit. But I personally find it very difficult to write something, and I have like 10 short film ideas that I've just abandoned because they didn't do it for me. So for me, I think short film is good to find your voice, but they're a genre in themselves that even after you do a feature film, you can do a short film, I think. But many people do, because the effort that you put into a short film, you might as well just put it into starting your own feature film at the moment, anyway.
Thank you, Saleh. And Ahmed, do you want to add any sentiment on why you prefer this genre now that you're also working on your feature?
Actually, I do prefer shorts because I write short stories, and even the feature that I'm writing is actually a compilation of short stories together somehow. So
Okay.
I am really a short story writer. This is kind of how I write. And I really believe that short stories are really harder to write somehow because it's really like it's yeah, you are limited with time. You don't have time to give people enough room to live with the characters and so on. And that's why I think when I suddenly started to see that, oh, I have time to tell things, it was easier for me to write actually.
Mm.
And also like so in my case, maybe specific case that I do animation, one short film that I make actually takes 2 years. So it was never really that I say I want to do short film because I don't have time or I don't have enough capacity to do it, because I
Mm.
could do actually 2 features maybe in this for one short film. So it's really a huge project to do a short film in animation. And the writing of it takes really long time. And as in literature, there's short stories and there is also novels. Uh, I think the film industry really kind of um, looks down a little bit on the short films because
Mm.
in literature, short stories are equal to novels. There was never say like writers don't start with short story writing and then they go to novels. It's never that. This is not the logical kind of path to go through. But as the colleagues mentioned, some stories are really short, and some stories they cannot be short. They need to be longer.
Mm.
So actually, I feel I'm a little bit dictated by the industry that I have to do a feature film. But I'm happy that I still found my way to write my short stories, and these short stories will become a longer film somehow. So it will be really like a project of short stories again.
All right. So I'm going to ask a question, and whoever wants to answer, just raise their hand and they can take the mic from there. You all work in the film industry and you've all done short films, but I think none of you are full-time filmmakers, if I'm not mistaken. You always have to have a second job in order to pay the bills and finance some of your projects. That begs the question of why do you attach yourself to a genre that, for the people who don't know, doesn't generate income in the first place? It goes to festivals, your name is there. Only very recently did Arab broadcasters buy a bunch of short films to broadcast them on their channels. But before then, especially in the Arab region, there wasn't such a market for that. So why invest so much time and effort and energy into this genre, in your opinion?
I
Anyone
mean,
wants to answer? Yeah.
I switched to my mic. Tough. Why not
Yeah.
mic? Oh, okay.
انت معك المايك.
I think Abdullah, at the end of the day, we're all storytellers and artists, and you know, there's a story to tell. And if you're like me and you think that, you know, a story isn't pure entertainment, yes, there's an entertainment aspect to it, but you know, it's a way of expressing something about yourself and expressing something about your culture, about your country, about your worldview. And I think that's an innate need in every artist to want to be able to show their creation off to the world. You know, something that you would, you know, quote unquote call commercial might not do it for some of us. So some filmmakers really like that sort of thing, and that's fine. But for us, I think a lot of us probably watched you know, foreign films that go to film festivals and said, hang on, this is accessible to me. I can do something like this. This is realistic. Whereas me watching Spider-Man, I don't think it's realistic for me to be able to make something like that, you know? And I think that's why we make the type of films that we do.
And Nawaf?
Well, it depends. How would you define full time? If you mean full time in the sense that I'm every day or every year at least making a new film, which would be the ideal scenario, yani, then maybe I am not a full time. But I am a full-time in the sense that I'm not an employee. Maybe I was lucky شوي and عندي other forms of abilities when it comes to cinema. يعني I'm not just a director. I can do workshops. I can do film programming, and those I have been doing for many years for payments. So I can say I live off working in cinema. But then I think we are all, without an exception, struggle being Arabs and being in the Arab world, تحديدا in the Arab world. يعني being an Arab, maybe outside the Arab world is not as bad as being an Arab inside the Arab world, because we have so many issues, we have so many problems, and part of your daily issue is struggling to maybe fix or deal with these issues. Many people give up. Many people don't know how to tackle these kind of issues. And like you said, if we are talking financially, it's so hard that many people cannot even think about giving up a job, يعني أو a day job, ويخسر راتب to pay the bills. Now, of course, it's different from one person to another. بس يعني يعني مثلا in my case, I'm very dedicated to what I do, and there is no way I think of anything else. يعني I was an employee, by the way, for 10 years. But even before, I knew that I'm going to resign one day. It was to me a matter of temporary phase. Let's get some cash علشان أقدر أكمل my career. Let's get to know some people. Let's get some experience. This is how I think, how I was thinking about it. So I did have a day job from 1999 to 2009. But I resigned. I'm a freelance since 2009. Is it difficult? Of course it's difficult. يعني أنا as an Emirati, I'm not rich. I'm not يعني من عيلة ما أدري شو. ما عندي بير بترول في البيت. So it is a difficult time, of course. But at the end of the day, I think, is it really what a person wants to do or not? Because it's a package. And from the day I decided to go into this path when I was 14, I realized that this is not an easy field to get into. And I accepted then لما كان عمري 14, I accepted that it's going to be a package. في أشياء حلوة وفي أشياء مش حلوة. You know what? No matter what it is, أنت رايح. It's as simple as that to me.
So I understand, the passion for this, for the industry, and specifically for this genre, is enough to keep you going, because whether there is a financial return to that or not is not the final outcome that you seek, in a way.
Abdullah, and one thing you actually balance, like I told you about that. I struggled, as Nawaf said. I graduated, and then I worked in so many films, and then I didn't make any money, and then I got this full-time job. But the passion for making the films, for me, I think, is greater than any financial income. And making money and being in the art anyway is a bourgeoisie thing. To appreciate art, you have to be, full, like you have a job, you're safe. Appreciating art also takes a certain level of safety to appreciate art and to watch films. And the same thing when you're working. So it's kind of it's a balanced thing. So you actually, sometimes you don't have to really, and some people are financially good, they don't have to pay the bills, especially with the females if they're married, so we don't have that pressure as the men in the film industry do, where the man is responsible for paying all the bills. So I think it's a kind of a balance. I agree with Nawaf. I do it for the love, for the passion of the film, and for the joy that I get from making films.
There's also this concept of suffering for your art. You have to suffer a little bit in order to create. And that kind of
suffering. عايزين نعيش. But I totally understand your point, and they are very valid. And I'm trying to just push the envelope in terms of thinking, and some of the questions might like push some buttons, but I think we need that, because we need to try to think of how to create a more sustainable environment for the industry itself, not only for the short film genre, but we can start from there. Having said that, specifically during the lockdown, we realized how people are ingesting more content online. And it made me realize that there actually might be a difference between short form content and short film as entertainment content. Do you agree there is a difference between these two, or they are both called short form content, entertainment content?
Sorry, شو هم two forms?
Short form entertainment content and short film content. Yani, let's say what you would watch on what is it called? TikTok.
YouTube.
It's short form content, really,
Or
where
YouTube.
you have millions of people addicted to it on a daily basis. And on the other hand, you have short film content, which is what we create. So do you differentiate between both?
لمين السؤال؟
لأي حدا حبيب أحمد صالح لأن أنت ما مشارك.
Maybe I can say
Yeah.
something here. I mean, actually, I think the short films are not really good, like the best form for like home consumption, because like it's whether even myself, I don't really sit to watch a short film somehow. Whether I want to sit for like 3 hours to watch something in a row because I'm tired of everything and I want to sit and like so I like the series that are 20 minutes. This is a nice format. So 20 minutes after another, and you feel you're watching a series, but it's short also. Or this really quick entertainment. Somehow they fit to the lockdown situation. But strangely, although I do short films, I don't really even send my films to anyone to say, here, if you want to be entertained today, just watch my film. I feel like, okay, it's going to be just 15 minutes of something, and then that's it. It is a very difficult form, really, of entertainment, let's say, as a short film.
And actually, one of the main reasons why I asked this question and to see if there is a difference between these two genres is when you had the platform like Quibi, and it had millions of dollars of investment in there, and it was specifically targeting short form content, so 3-minute series or 10-minute series per episode. But it failed and it went bankrupt and it doesn't exist anymore. So my point is that how do we move on to keep the short film content as a genre intact artistically, but still be able to monetize on it? What do you think is a solution for this?
Can I say something here? I'm having an experiment. I don't know if it's gonna work. Sorry, but I'm taking the talk again.
No, please.
So actually, what I want to share with you, because the films that I make, every film, first it takes a long time to make, and actually there is what I try to write. Usually, the backstory of the story is longer than the story is itself. So I really condensed a really huge story into a short format to make it accessible and to make it readable to other eyes that they don't know the exact situation. So what I did actually a few times experimentation of, because when I finish the film, I know that there is so much behind the film that the film itself will not really show that. It works as a film by its own. But then I experimented actually in my film school to show my films with storytelling performance. And with that, actually, I could create kind of a feature film out of my short films. So it would stand, tell you stories, and then the short film become in the middle of the narrative of what I tell you. Then you see the film, then I come back to tell you more stories, and then the second film will be part of the second story of the long story, and then I continue, and then I reach the third film. With that, actually, I don't know. I feel this could be a format that I'm trying now. Maybe because I finished the third film, I already did one experiment with the 3 films together for my colleagues in the agency. So it was like kind of 1 hour and 15 minutes performance with showing films. And people were still sitting. They wanted to hear more, but we had to run away from the
That's
cinema
amazing.
because so it was kind of interesting. I feel maybe with this, I can do with my short film something that I can kind of perform with films and do. Maybe I'm experimenting. I don't know if this is gonna work,
So your
but
experiment is more like short films as a performance on stage that would be able to be ticketed in a way and entertain
exactly, yeah.
individuals. Yeah,
Right, right. So it
interesting.
will be booked as a feature film in cinema, and I already started to think about it if this works or not. Like that, but this could be yes, like so it will be ticketed, and then but that's the thing. I cannot do it like so many times, so it will not also generate that much. I don't know.
Any other thoughts on the monetization of the short film genre, please, Nawaf?
Yes. Well, first of all, I have to say أنا عندي شوية تحفظ على كلمة content because I don't like it when we are talking about cinema. بس يعني you used it smartly يا عبد الله. قال لك الكونتنت الانترتينمنت وبعدين قال لك short film content. Fine, no problem. But yeah, honestly, I think يعني basically I'm flagging something because I think it's taking us in a very wrong direction. مش إحنا, not in this conversation. I mean the world. The use of the word content has been يعني unbelievable. And when it comes to us, when it comes to cinema, it really plays with your mind. It can easily mess up what quality is when it comes to what you're working, and things start to dissolve. Well, I think this is not healthy and not good at all. Yeah. Anyway, فهاي سريعا بس on monetization, I think there are two very obvious solutions, but unfortunately they are not happening. One of them, which is something we've called for before so many times in the UAE, and it happened maybe once or twice, بس يعني مثل ما تقول exception, which is screening a short film before feature films and theatrical releases. Of course, this is challenging because you must select films, let's say below 10 minutes. If you select a film 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work with the time slots that the cinemas have.
Yeah.
But at least that could generate some money for that category. Those films that are under 10 minutes or 5 minutes can find some money making their films. The other one is actually cultural centers, educational institutions that organize film nights and film days and film festivals and film screenings all the time. But then they don't think of allocating some budget as a screening fee. Yani all the time we hear, well, we don't have a budget. And then fine, we don't have a budget. And then million marra after that, we don't have a budget. And then why are you not thinking of allocating a minimum? Yani we're not talking about a number, we're talking about the principle. يعني إن شاء الله يكونون 10 دراهم. I don't care, to be honest. Nawaf, I really don't care. I care about the principle. إذا هذا principle بدأ يشتغل, then the institutions and the cultural venues start to understand that this is something that must be there. And with time, let's say if a film gets screened, I don't know, 5-10 times, you can generate some good money out of that. Again, we're not talking about numbers. We're just talking about the principle. إذا طلع لك $20 من هنا، $50 من هناك، $100 ما أدري من وين، كل حد depends on their budget. But they have to believe that this is something that they should think about. At the end of the day, filmmakers would agree to screen for free because they want to screen the films. They want to reach audiences. And many opportunities may come like this, where there is no budget really, so take it or leave it. And then تعمل حساباتك انت وتقول, you know what, I'll just take it, no problem. And really, at the end of the day, no problem. But then على long run, it's putting us where we are today. Where we are talking about in why short films are still not able to generate some money, not a lot, but some money for their makers. which is very
Actually,
doable.
it's very doable, and we have a collection of short films from the Arab region that are not only strong in content, and I'm gonna use the word content here because it's very important. Not only strong in terms of story, but also strong in terms of cast. You have a lot that include A-list celebrities there. Directors have a long history of work behind their backs as well. And the problem is, it's a matter of education. And I please feel free to interject. It's a matter of education towards the audiences who seem to be more and more attuned towards short form entertainment. And it's a matter of education towards the outlets where distributors need to address these, whether it's cinemas, TV networks, and online platforms. Uh, it's taking years. Unfortunately, this is changing. You have some TV networks, as I mentioned, who are buying Arab short films to screen during prime time locations on their channels. We've also, under Map Solutions, which is an Arab distribution company, what we've done is that we've collected a series of short films and gave them let's say, a certain category. So we've put them under different categories, let's say short films by A-list celebrities or short films that went to the Oscars from the Arab world. And we've screened them in cinemas across different cities in the Arab world as an experiment. And people actually bought tickets to go and see the movies without the context and the pretext of putting a feature film بالموضوع.
Yeah.
So that was successful in a way. Is it going to always be successful? I have no idea. We haven't done this again since 2018, and then the pandemic happened. So I'm curious to see with the new content that we have on board from other filmmakers, how would the audiences react to that, seeing that they have ingested more short form content during this period. It'll be exciting to see. I have to, yeah.
That's one point here with the monetization for the short film, also to educate the public. If we don't have a platform, as you said, this week we have short films, let's say about Asian short films in the cinema, or a center, a culture center where, we're going to be screening this month, and people will start going and seeing short films. Or, because it's really, I think it's a social thing that once we finish from this pandemic, is getting the public. Like I remember when we were in Sweden, in Malmo, that everybody came to see the short films. I was shocked, and especially that it's Arab short films. There was so much interest because this should be a building of culture in watching short films.
بالضبط. بس بدي حيي معنا أيمن الشاطري قدر يكون معنا حاليا، لأن من الأشياء اللي عندنا تحديات فيها بالوطن العربي أحيانا اللي هي الانستابيليتي أوف الكهرباء، وبعتقد زميلنا أيمن موجود بالعراق، فللأسف ما كان عم يقدر يكون معنا قبل. أهلا وسهلا فيك
أيمن. يا أصدقائي أنا جدا آسف والله، بس
لا it's not your fault. هيدي مشكلة نحن بنواجهها بالكرييتيف اندستريز كلياتها.
أنا جدا أعتذر، ويعني تعرفون السبب مو من عندي، بس أتمنى تقبلون اعتذاري.
مسموح حبيبي.
تسلم، شكرا كثير يا أيمن. بس لو كرمت تعرف عن نفسك للحضور معنا.
أي أوكي أكيد. أنا أيمن، مخرج من العراق، صانع أفلام، بالإضافة إلى أنه إديتور مان. اشتغلت بمجالات كثيرة بالسينما من 2010 لحد الآن. بداياتي كانت كممثل، وبعدها بديت يعني استمريت بالمونتاج العديد من الأفلام القصيرة، وبالإضافة للإعلانات. هاي كانت بداياتي بالأكاديمية، طبعا بكالوريوس السينما من كلية الفنون الجميلة في جامعة بغداد. عندي كم تجربة بالسينما كأفلام كمخرج بيها، وبنفس الوقت كان آخر أفلامي هو الساعة الخامسة اللي انعرض في مهرجان دبي الدورة 13، وعلى ضوء هذا الفيلم يعني أخذ جوائز كثيرة، أهمها كانت من مالمو السويد، ومن خلال هذا الفيلم يعني حصلت على لقب واحد من 5 Arab Stars of Tomorrow من مجلة سكرين انترناشونال البريطانية. بالإضافة لأنه كل هاي إحنا نقدر نقول عليها إنه محاولات إنه نصنع سينما بالعراق وسط الظرف الحالي. وهذا اللي أكثر شيء أقدر أقوله عن نفسي، ومجرد إنه أقول إنه أنا طامح بالسينما، مجرد إنه شخص يحاول يصنع سينما في ظل ظروف صعبة بصورة عامة بالوطن العربي، وبصورة خاصة بالعراق.
يعطيك العافية أيمن، وعن جد بهالظروف الصعبة نحن بنشوف أمل بناس مثلك وبالثقافات الإبداعية الموجودة بالوطن العربي اللي بعدها عم تحاول تنتج وتبدع وتخلق شيء يحسسنا أنه بعدنا موجودين. فشكرا كثير أيمن.
شكرا جزيلا عبد الله، شكرا جزيلا، الله يحفظك.
بس هلا اذا بدي وجه سؤالي بالاخص لايمن واحمد، بما انه الحمد لله يعني ستر المولى بالخليج من دون اي تحديات سياسيه الحمد لله وامنيه، بالعراق وبفلسطين بالذات بتحس في، بما انه خديجه قالت الافلام بالاخص القصيره هي عباره عن توثيق عن الحضارات اللي نحن عايشين فيها كستوريز، بتلاقي افلام كثير، افلام قصيره من العراق ومن فلسطين بتعنى بالقضيه الفلسطينيه، بالحرب بالعراق والحروب الاهليه. بس هل هيدي هي القصص الوحيده الموجوده بالعراق وبفلسطين لنضوي عليها، ولا بتحسوا صار في مسؤوليه تجاه الاضاءه على قصص ثانيه موجوده عندنا بالوطن العربي بالاخص بالعراق وفلسطين؟
الاجابه الي اول.
ايمن فيك تبلش.
شوف عبد الله، اذا اريد اكون واقعي وبدون مجاملات للموضوع، احنا بالعراق، انا اريد احكي بالعراق اكثر لانه انا ما عندي اطلاع كبير، بس اكو كم تجربه شفتها من السينما الفلسطينيه، وانا جدا معجب بالسينما الفلسطينيه من ناحيه ابداعيه ومن ناحيه فنيه. صراحه القضايا اللي عندنا انا اعتبرها انه ممكن تكون ماده دسمه بالنسبه للسينمائيين، بس بنفس الوقت جاي اشوفها باغلب تجاربنا العراقيين انه هي استجداء عواطف. يعني سوري بس انا لازم اكون واقعي. ما من ممكن احنا نستمر بهذا الموضوع انه احنا نستجدي عواطف من خلال افلامنا عن القضايا الحرب، القضيه الفلسطينيه بالاضافه الى ذلك. يعني اذا خلصت هاي المواضيع وراها شنو راح نسوي؟ يعني انه احنا لازم نلتجئ يعني انه الجمهور معين، يعني احنا مو بس جمهورنا هذه القضايا، ما مجبر انه الجمهور يعرف قضايانا بكل تفاصيلها دائما، يعني انا لازم اسوي تجديد. برايي الموضوع انه يعني نجرب قدراتنا في حال خضنا تجارب جديده بغض النظر عن الاحداث السياسيه بالعراق وبصوره عامه بالوطن العربي. انا اشوفها انه احنا اذا طلعنا من هذا المود راح نواجه صعوبه، لانه احنا اعتمادنا على هاي الماده الدسمه من ناحيه قصصنا، من ناحيه مواضيعنا بصوره عامه، احنا جاي نعتمد على هذه المواد. يعني انا لازم اكون صريح بهذا الاشياء، كل افلامنا العراقيين احنا فيها هذا الموضوع اللي هو احنا مساكين، احنا خطيه. لا احنا مو دائما هيك، يعني مو بالضروره انه نستجدي عواطف افلامنا. انا لازم اكون صريح قدام العالم كله. يعني المحاولات اللي جاي نسويها والجوائز اللي دا ناخذها، العروض اللي دا نسويها بكل العالم، هي ممكن تكون نقطة قوتها انه جاي افلام من العراق بصورة يعاني ظرف صعب وجاي تجي افلام من عنده. بس انا اقصد للمستقبل شنو ممكن راح نكون؟ انه لازم نبني ناسس ارضية للسينما، ناسس شركات انتاج هذه ما موجوده، شركات توزيع هذه ما موجوده. يعني هي كم شركه بالوطن العربي ممكن تكون بس هي رائده بهذا الشيء. لازم تكون اكو شركات، اكو بنى تحتيه، اكو مدن اعلاميه، ولو يعني انا ما اعرف التايم اللي مخصص لي ايش قد.
هيدا ممتاز ايمن، شكرا كثير، بعتقد وصلت الرساله. احمد، من بعدها بننتقل على اسئله من الجمهور.
من ناحيتي اكيد ما بحس انه طبيعي انه مش لازم تكون عن القضيه، يعني مش هي القضيه، مش القصه الوحيده، او لما تصير القضيه هي 100% من قصه الفيلم بصير زي ما حكى زميلي انه استجداء عواطف، كانه بدي اعلم الناس ايش قضيتي. فهيك كانك بتصير مش you're not a storyteller, you're trying to point finger on I teach you how is my case ولا قضيتي. When the films are really focused on only the political situation, I think it becomes news more than film. So it shouldn't really be, of course, only about the situation, but actually, like at least in my experience, how I approached it. Actually, it is hard to get out of the political situation, because the political situation is really like the background sky in the daily life. So it's really like saying someone would brush her teeth, his teeth is the same as facing something on the way to somewhere. It's very normal, so that's why it's part of the story. So I think that's why also it's very evident in all the films. And but again, and when the film, when this is a side, which is actually really when you live in Palestine or any place like this, all these the mess in the street becomes really like a side thing. You do all your life normally, but this would be like 5 minutes bothering you, and then you continue your life. And this balance should be there actually. Again, it shouldn't be like, oh, here we're really masakin, زي ما زميلي حكى. In my case, actually, how I approach it, I actually don't show in my film that this is a story from Palestine at all. I keep it just like there's no place in my stories, and this is something that because I don't want people to think about Palestine or something, I want them to think about these people because I really want to tell stories of people, and I don't want them to be vacuumed inside this bubble of the location. You know, all my
This is
films
actually
don't.
this is very true about your film, especially Aini. I just realized
Yeah,
there was nothing
yes,
Palestinian about the film, but for some reason, maybe because I knew you're Palestinian,
yes, yes.
I was connecting. But it's very humanistic in its nature. It's about humans, not necessarily a
Right.
nationality. That's
Yeah,
correct.
exactly.
So thank you so much. I'm gonna go to the questions from our audiences before we wrap up. So
sorry,
yeah.
there's Nawaf who raised his hand. He has probably something.
Nawaf, sorry, I didn't see.
No problem. I just want to touch quickly على شيء قالته خديجة, which I think very very important, اللي هو educating the audience. And this goes back to what we were saying about monetization, because the more the audience is ready, the more tickets you can sell, the more audience يعني eager to watch short films, not just feature films. The more everybody's happy. يعني the audience get what they want. The filmmakers are reaching different people and different audiences, and that's I think it's extremely important, not only from a commercial point of view, also from a cultural and educational point of view. And that's why يعني adding to this, I launched recently an initiative called Cineolio, which is a platform dedicated only for short films, where it acts actually in this regard exactly. It's giving the filmmakers new opportunities to screen their films, whether it's online or physically, conventional screenings in different venues, thus reaching out to different slices of audiences and different categories of audiences that otherwise they wouldn't reach, and give the audience who are hungry, who are seeking, who are looking for good quality filmmaking in the short form, and give them the chance to get exposed to that. So I think this is a long-term effort that we all have to يعني jump into. Sometimes I hear some friends and colleagues say, yeah, but يعني أنا ما أفهم في هالأشياء. والله yeah, بس أنا ما عندي وقت أسوي كذا. I think we have to think again about that kind of mentality or approach, because like I said, being an Arab inside the Arab world has so many disadvantages and problems and issues that won't be fixed إلا لما كلنا نحط إيدنا في إيد بعض ونشتغل مع بعض to fix these kind of issues.
That's what Silverline is here for to do.
Can I just add something to Nawaf's point? Because I think Nawaf's approach is actually probably the correct approach. I mean, especially pre-corona, I don't know about now, but that's another discussion for another time. But this approach, because you have to realize a lot of audiences don't even know this kind of story exists. They know they're looking for something, but when you show it to them, you put it in front of them, they're like, wow, I didn't know we could watch films from, you know, Sudan or from Egypt or from Kuwait or from anywhere else in the world, like in the Arab world. And they get excited seeing themselves on screen, seeing a story that's not just like, you'd be actually so surprised that if the story is well told and you put this audience and you arrange this short film collection or whatever as a screening, as a special one-off event, people quite like that. They quite like going to an event today, we're going to watch some short films. Istijwab is very interesting, like people, you know, actually taking part and seeing stuff and seeing people that look like them on screen. We've organized a couple of them here, and you'd be so like the feedback is amazing every single time. People, we had someone come up to us and say, that was one of the best nights I've had in a while, because we put quality stories that they're not too out of reach, they're not too artsy, for example, but they tell a
They
story.
connect. Yeah.
And people are able to connect with the characters, and that's important. Nawaf's approach is totally correct. There's also,
and actually, sorry.
Sorry, Abdullah. I just want to add one more thing, like about a point that we mentioned earlier. I think if you look at platforms like Mubi that have like lots of feature films, and then in between you'll have short films being screened, or what OSN did, where they have all this kind of TV series and films and stories, but then you have a bunch of Arab short films. Okay, it's a one of a kind, it's an experiment, I would say, but I think it worked pretty well, because for the first time, before people will say like, where can I see your short film? Like, well, you have to wait for Dubai Film Festival, or you have to wait for this film festival, or you have to wait for my premiere in Bahrain. And people don't understand that. They don't understand premiere.
About like a link.
Yeah, about like a link or whatever. And people now they've changed, because I like, for example, I wasn't able to send people links because I really don't want them watching it on their small phones. We really design our films to be seen on a big screen with a group of people. But now that I think because of lockdown, people are watching Netflix, they're watching all these things, they're watching them on their smart TVs. So you suddenly have a bigger screen and they want to watch stuff. So I think the future is a mix. Hopefully we'll all be able to go out and sort of mix and intermingle again for these events that Nawaf organizes. But also in terms of platform, I think, mixing all up, short films, feature films, depending on your mood and the time that you have in the day, I think that's probably a better solution.
Definitely. And the landscape of platforms is changing. I mean, you have Netflix that screened a series of short films from Saudi Arabia. You have Vimeo Plus as well, where you can screen your own film for a fee as well on their platform.
One of the Arab ones like Vimeo for some weird reason. I don't know. كل مرة ببعت link Vimeo, no one is able to watch it. Just to let you know.
We'll talk about that later. But also now with the platform that Nawaf has started, which will target international short films, not only Arab ones. This is a great step forward, which answers our first question actually from Azza about the availability of platforms and where people can see them. And the second question is from Samia. Sorry, I got late into the conversation, but it's worth looking at how other regions deal with short films. Are there any successful examples? ريجن سواء كانت من الوطن العربي أو برا الوطن العربي تعاملت مع موضوع الأفلام القصيرة بطريقة مربحة ومستدامة أكثر. في عنا أي أمثلة؟
I don't know about the Western, but when I went to Sweden, I definitely saw a huge turnout for short films. I don't know if it's because the education, they have culture center, but they
do, yeah.
Every film that we screened, I think you were there or Alat was there. In two cities, like I remember we screened Stutter in Malmo, and then they took us another city where there was a culture district, and people flocked in to see, their short films. And I said, this is normal. That we love watching short films. So I think again, it comes with that's in Sweden. I don't know in the US, but also you have to take in consideration that also short film makers, we are locked down upon in the industry. I remember when I went to all the festivals in Cannes and Malmo and in Dubai, they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a short filmmaker. Thank you. I was like, you feature film, the people stop for you, they want to hear more about you. So also we need, not only that we need to educate the public about the importance of short films, we need to educate to feel important within our own circle.
بالضبط. Exactly.
I think if we don't refer to them as short films, maybe, I don't know, it's just an idea. I'm a filmmaker rather than I'm just a filmmaker. I'm not a filmmaker. Watch my film. It's pretty short. It's a different mentality.
That might work.
I'm a filmmaker. Full stop.
Nawaf?
Well, of course, what Khadija is saying has some fact and reality. But we have to also understand that in film festivals, specifically in film festivals, if you run into someone and a conversation happens, you have to understand that this someone is also here for a target. So if their target is a new feature film, a new feature documentary حتى. I think it's natural إذا حد يصنع only أفلام قصيرة, they wouldn't be يعني okay, nice to meet you and everything, but they wouldn't see the potential of having a work conversation with you because this is not what you're doing. But if you say, well, I'm a short filmmaker and I'm preparing for a feature film, مثلا, oh, now there's a longer conversation. It's nothing. I don't think this is personal or anything against. It's just يعني, target. This is what I do and this is what you do. I think it's fine. But in terms of the question about the short films in other regions, I think looking at countries like, يعني generally Europe in general, but يعني looking specifically at countries like France and Germany, يعني the cycle of the life of a short film, يعني it's beyond film festivals. And audiences, نرجع لفكرة education, يعني you go to a festival like Berlin, أعظم جمهور in my opinion شفته بحياتي كان مهرجان برلين, ما في screening فاضي, and they don't go out, they don't even walk out the screening. They don't, يعني حتى لو الفيلم مش عاجب حد ما يطلع. They really have a beautiful cinematic culture there, and that didn't come like this. That came out of يعني constant work and coordination between all these organizations. Now, this is where we're going. This is where we have to reach, and we all have to do something about it.
True.
I just want to add to your point, Nawaf. Another great film festival going audience is in the Arab world, Tunisia, and it's about the education thing.
Qartaj.
Yeah, in Qartaj, you will not find a seat free.
Number one, Qartaj في الوطن العربي, number one.
Yes, and you know why that is? Because they are raised on a diet of Canal Plus or whatever they're watching, so they understand this world. The whole, from the poorest person to the richest person, they understand the world. And that's why they go and watch it. And so it is an education thing. If we're not teaching music in schools, and we're not teaching short story form in Arabic literature class or something like that, how do you expect them to go and watch a short film and understand what it is?
Sure. And our second question is from May Barber. If more opportunity seems to be in episodic content like short series, would you consider shifting your vision and resources to it? Does the work or budget or resources of a short film equate a single episode or an entire short series?
Short film is a short film.
Ahmed.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, short film is one story. It's not a series. It's a different form. Yeah. Is that the question?
May, yes, you can go ahead and rephrase.
The noise. I don't have the issue of electricity. I have the issue of little kids. So excuse me for that. No, my question was actually related to if the demand, if more opportunities and income, money seem to be happening with more audience, especially in this region, watching short series, would you consider shifting your vision as short filmmakers to doing more of independent stories, but connected somewhat as a short series? And someone earlier mentioned that, in fact, a short film equates a feature film. Someone earlier, I forgot, sorry who, but in the beginning said the work on it, and then it ends up being very short, but it's kind of could be, and the thinking in fact can be more difficult because it's such a concise story that you have to tell in a shorter, period of time. So would you consider, or are you too true to your positions as filmmakers in short film, or would you consider doing series because of the demand of the audience?
I'm doing that now. Sorry, Ahmed.
Interesting.
I'm doing something like that now, where I had a short film idea that I thought, hey, this would make a nice series of things. And so I'm working it out in my head at the moment and writing it down. But it's along those lines, that having several little short films that kind of make up one sort of work, maybe.
Ahmed?
Yeah, I would say the same actually. I mean, let's say if the world is ideal and short films are also demanded, then I wouldn't think about something else because it's really my passion somehow. But I also thought of this feature film that is constructed from short films. And also I'm thinking, oh, well, that also can be a series. I'm also thinking, okay, how can I monetize from my writings as well? But I feel somehow, actually, in the deep of my head, I feel like maybe I'm forced to go that way because I know if I do it that way, more people will hear my stories. But that's what I want in the end. I want to tell stories, and if that makes if I make it as a series or as a feature film, it will be exposed, and I tell more stories. Why not? In a way, you know. So yes, I think. But then it's like another long term of training, and because it's a different form of writing actually, that I need to learn and I need to develop my writing into that direction. Which is difficult actually. It's a big shift. It's a different way of writing and so on. But yeah, we would take that task to tell the stories in the end. I think it's easier than changing the industry, right? Yeah.
We have another question from Zaid Bawab. It's also important to remember that the short films are usually looked at as a director's portfolio material and not means to generate money. So that could be a convincing tool for panels who decide on longer form funding. بس لترجم بالعربي هي شو اسمه الجانرا تاعت الافلام القصيره هي فيك تقول تعتبر كأنها بورتفوليو لتزويد البورتفوليو للفيلم ميكر العربي او لاي فيلم ميكر. كمان اذا بده يعمل اي فيتشر فيلم اي حدا بده عم يعمل له فاندنج يشوف انه شو ستايله شو طريقته بالاخراج شو طريقه القائه بالفيلم كشورت فيلم ليعرف اذا حيعطيه فاندنج لفيتشر فيلم او لا. فهل هالشيء general rule ولا it's an exception ولا people can break the mold? Nawaf, and I think you are the one. Yeah.
I don't think it's a rule at all. It's just a way to think about it because it is effective in certain cases. نرجع نقول الكلام اللي قلناه في الأول إن في different forms. So في short form وفي long form. إذا في واحد أو واحدة يعني قرروا إن هم I want to build my career only in feature films. تمام ما في أي مشكلة. But that's very tough. That's very difficult because it's going to take to convince a lot of people to put a lot of money, or at least one person to put a lot of money. And sometimes a very good way to convince that person or group of people is to actually show them something that gives them some comfort. And yes, أنا قاعد أحط فلوسي في المكان الصح لأنه I can see your talent now. I can see what you can do. If that means إن أنت تروح تسوي short film, even though this is not what you want, this is not what you really want to spend your hours doing, then you have to do it. There is no other way, because otherwise you will be just talking to them and they will ask you, what did you do before? والله ما عندي شيء. Then can you show us samples of your work? والله ما سويت شيء. That conversation is not going to go anywhere unless you're talking to somebody who extremely loves you and willing to give you a fortune for nothing, which is extreme. Yeah, this is a miracle. For this to happen, it's a miracle. So I think it's just one way to think about it. I don't encourage it, to be honest, because I think of short films as also way to exercise, especially in that early stage, yani. So while you're doing that, why are you going to settle for just one film? Make 2, 3, 4, نمي your own experience, نمي your own tools, and you'll get better anyway. Yani, anyway, you're going to get better. Because we've seen people jump into feature films because they don't want to wait. And again, ما في rules هني. يعني في ناس سوت أول feature film alone and it was really successful and it was really a piece of art. Some other people just failed because they didn't exercise enough before, not even in short films. How do you know? How do you know what you're doing? فاهم قصدي? So يعني it's a little bit complicated. I usually explain this a lot in my workshops because really some people don't understand in how this works.
That's bring us to question, and is it only if you can be like, let's say I just want to be a short filmmaker, does this mean that I'm not a real filmmaker, that I have to do features? So also the question has two coins, like the coin has two faces. Why do I have to be only making short films in order to make my feature? Why can't I only be a short filmmaker, and is that respectable in the film industry?
It is. I'll answer you that, but we'll work on it as part of the education.
عبد الله ممكن
أيمن
اعرف السؤال بالضبط لان ما فهمته، بالاضافه لانه اريد اعرف يعني ردود افعال الاخوه وارائهم، اريد اسمعها بشكل يعني يعني
ايه
ملخص.
اكيد. سوري، انا حاولت اترجم السؤال بس يمكن ما كان واضح. السؤال and correct me if I'm wrong زيد، انه انت كصانع افلام، هل بتفتكر انه ضروري تعمل افلام قصيره بالاول من دون ما تفكر بالعائد المالي تاعها، علشان هيدي الافلام القصيره انت حتضطر تستعملها للناس والشركات اللي حتعطي مصاري كرمال الفيلم الطويل تاعك الروائي؟ ولا بتحس انت فيك تضلك عم تعمل افلام قصيره كرمال بس تعمل افلام قصيره؟
تمام.
فهمت كيف؟
فهمتك بس ممكن اراء الاخوه يعني اريد اسمعها حتى
هلا
بشكل
نواف تقدر تلخص النقطه تاعتك بالعربي؟
اي طبعا. اسمح لي اخوي احمد ايمن.
طبعا اوكي.
انا كنت اقول ان هاي طريقه واحده في التفكير، يعني ممكن واحد يسوي فيلم قصير لانه محتاج يقنع ممولين، يحتاج يقنع منتجين يشتغلون معاه فيلم الطويل. اذا هو فعلا هاي قراره ما يبغى يسوي افلام قصيره من البدايه وحاب يدخل مباشره في الافلام الطويله، احيانا ما عندك طريقه اسرع وافضل انك تقنع الممول او المنتج الا انك تراويه شيء من شغلك، وهذا ممكن يكون جدا سهل وارخص
صح.
في التنفيذ اذا انت قررت تسوي فيلم قصير، لان ذاك الوقت يشوفون شيء بناء عليه يقدرون يحكمون.
زين.
هاي الزبده اللي انا يعني زبده الكلام.
انا خلي اعطي مثال. عندي شخص صديقي يحاول انه يصنع، وانا ايدكم برايي بصوره عامه، هو هذا يعني الشيء المنطقي والواقعي اللي موجود على ارض الواقع. كان وجهات النظر كانت تجاهها غلط او صح، يعني انا ما اقدر اقول صح او غلط بهذا الشيء، بس هو موجود على ارض الواقع. بس انا راح اعطي مثال في شخص في الميكر من العراق، حب انه هو عنده كذا تجربه، انه يعني تجربه طلابيه، بس بعدها انه حاب يصنع فيلم روائي طويل. اشتغل على الفيلم، للاسف انه ما لقى انه ممول للفيلم او انتاج للفيلم، خصوصا بالعراق تعرفون الوضع انه لازم يبحث عن فاند عربيا او عالميا، والموضوع شيء صعب لانه هو ما عنده تجارب. بس انا ارد يعني هو مهما كان فيلمه جيد، مهما كان النص اللي عنده قوي، بس هو ظل يعني شلون احنا نقول يروح ويرجع بنفس مكانه، لانه ما راح يحصل شيء مهما كان فيلمه زين، مهما كان هو صانع محتوى جيد بالنسبه للسينما. بس اي ثينك انه بعدين راح يعني انتج بانتاجه الخاص، بعدها تحصل بوست برودكشن يعني جيد للفيلم. اوريدي انه هذا واقع موجود عندنا، يعني ممكن ما اعرف انه هاي الطريقه يعني ليش هيجي، يعني ممكن يعني تجرب افلام قصيره، ممكن انت تنجح بافلام شورت، بس انت مو بالضروره تنجح فيلم شورت وبعدين تجرب فيلم روائي طويل، وراح يعني العمليه راح تكون مختلفه، يعني التجربه تكون مختلفه. يعني يحتاج لك نفس طويل، خصوصا انا اريد اقول خصوصا انه احنا بالبلدان اللي من الصعب جدا انتاج فيلم، مثل العراق، كثير مثل البلدان العربيه انه صعب جدا. يعني اكو تجارب مثلا بالعراق احنا ما نقدر نقول انه هاي صناعه، هذه مو صناعه مستحيل يعني، بس احنا اوريدي نقول بدنا نحاول بهاي الاشياء. فانا اوافقكم بالراي مع او ضد بنفس الوقت.
أنا آخر سؤال من مو. People consume short form content up to 1 minute on the go and invest time for series and feature films. This leaves the short film in an awkward position where people don't know how to consume them. So what is the best way to solve this issue? بس لترجم بالعربي إنه الشورت فورم جونرا الناس شو اسمه بتتلقى الشورت فورم انترتينمنت من الموبايل تاعها مثلا على انستغرام او تيك توك بما يعادل 1 مينت، بيحضروها هن وماشيين تقريبا او هن بالسياره، وبيخصصوا وقت معين ليحضروا الافلام الطويله او المسلسلات. اوكي، بس الافلام القصيره تقريبا جايه بالنص، ما بتعرف اذا هي طويله لتقدر تكرس وقت لها او فيك تحضرها انت وماشي مثلا. فشو هو الحل لنقدر نخصص وقت معين لنحضر الافلام القصيره؟ اي حدا؟
انا عندي فكره.
ايه
أنا ممكن تكون يعني إحنا هاي جربناها سابقا بالعراق وشفناها يعني حلوة، الناس حبتها هاي الشغلة. ممكن تكون مثلا في كل عرض، مثلا أنا ما أيد إنه يكون على الإنترنت أو على تواصل أو شيء أبد، جدا ما أحب هذا الشيء. بس اكو تجربه يعني ممكن تكون انت مثلا مجموعه افلام مختاره، مثلا 6 افلام 10 افلام، ممكن هذين الافلام القصيره يكونن ساعه بيناتهم فواصل في سينما، ليش لا؟ بالاضافه الى انه مثلا عندك عرض فيلم طويل تخلي في مقدمته فيلم قصير. يعني هاي يعني ممكن انه هذا الموضوع يكون جيد، يعني خصوصا مثلا اكو ناس تحب تشوف شورتات يعني. واعتقد سواها علاء كركوتي بالقاهره، سوى عرض شورتات يعني، واعتقد صار له نجاح يعني. انا اشوف انه هي الشورت يعني لازم تكون لها خصوصيتها يعني، او تحافظ عليها. ممكن الاشياء بالمستقبل تتغير يعني، بس اوريدي انه انا اشوف رايي هيك.
خديجة.
I have to mention that the change for me as well, the change of the like pre-pandemic, because I was always on the go. I would love to watch short films because I don't have time to sit for 2 hours. Pandemic era, I bring all the short and long films, bring all the series that I can. I just want the time to pass. So it's a very difficult question, actually. It's giving me some thoughts. I don't know if we're going to go back to the quick bath lifestyle that we used to have. I doubt it. Maybe we can put I don't know, like Ayman said, a program that we can actually screen 5 films together for 1 hour, you know. I think that would be much easier because I don't want to watch film now for 10 minutes. I have all day. I need a lot of content to entertain me.
True. أي حدا تاني بيحب يزيد؟
أنا أقول إن إحنا لازم نفرض الدiscussion around short films للناس. إحنا لازم نفرضها. يعني we create the need for people to watch short films through, you know, it can be through clever marketing or through, you know how people always talk about feature films or series, through, you know, news reports, discussions online, things like that. There needs to be a movement to create the same kind of dialogue around short films. We have to create the need for people to want to watch short films in the same way. And we have to put them out there. That's why I think that Wasan thing was such a good idea, because for the first time people can go and watch them.
Speaking of the need,
احنا لازم نفضل الفيلم القصير على الناس. هم ما يعرفون شيء. احنا نقول
very true. Speaking of the need, we have the final question from Joaquin. With a short attention span of the upcoming generation, don't you think short films have a golden opportunity? Will the upcoming generation consume short films in the way they are being produced, or would you prefer to integrate it with technology such as VR or AR? بس تترجم بالعربي. هلا نحن الجيل الجديد عنده قوة تركيز شوي أضيق من قوة تركيز للأجيال السابقة. فمن وكيم عم بقول إنه يمكن هذا الشيء يكون فرصة ذهبية للأفلام القصيرة لحتى لتهدف للأجيال الجديدة. فهل ممكن، هل في أي احتمال إنه نزيد طابع التكنولوجي لهالأفلام، نفوت عليها الفي ار والاوجمانتد رياليتي مثلا، فنقدر نجذب هيدي الجنريشن؟
Can I say something?
أحمد بليز.
I was smiling. كنت بضحك لما سمعت السؤال، لأنه هالأيام بشتغل كثير بالادفرتايزنج، وبنعمل أفلام 15 ثانية. فلما بعد ما يعني لما نخلص المشاريع واشوف اي شيء اكثر من دقيقه، بحس اني كاني بحضر فيلم طويل. لانه في 15 ثانيه you need to tell so much story in commercial. بس بعدين يعني لما احكي بعمل افلام 15 دقيقه بالكوميرشال سيركت، في واو 15 دقيقه كانها شيء طويل. ففي منه على فكرة، يعني أتوقع إنه ممكن مع الزمن يصير الشورت فيلم consumed as a feature film in the future, maybe. It's a funny thought. I think it could be actually. That would be our هاي راح تكون حظنا الحلو يعني. وطبعا التكنولوجي وكذا هاي it's a really long discussion I think to think about implementing technology in storytelling. Then it's another kind of way of telling stories. But sure, it makes it more appealing, and I really like how people are now لما يحطوا قصص في الألعاب كمان في الفيديو games and كذا. It's another way of telling stories somehow. Yeah.
أنا أريد أقول شغلة بس لا تضحكون. هي السينما صارت مثل الأكل، أنت جوع تطلب دليفري يوصل لك للبيت. فطعم السينما راح يروح مثل ما انت تاكل بمطعم او تاكل بالبيت يعني. يعني سواء كان شورت او لونج فيلم يعني ما ادري، جاي احس انه راح بالمستقبل الجاي يعني انه حتى راح تفقد طعمها.
بس ممكن بتحسوا الافلام especially short form content ممكن يكون interactive اكثر اذا ممكن يدخل فيه technologies such as virtual reality او augmented reality. لا نواف عم بهز براسه يا لطيف.
حتى انا صراحه
شوف انا يعني انا واحد مو بس يعني مو بحابب الفي ار، انا ضده تماما، واعتقد استخدامه في السينما دخيل حقيقي يعني. وكل الكلام اللي ينقال دائما على الفي ار انه هو ذس از ذا نيو سينما وما ادري كيف، كل هذا كلام فاضي. لأن إلى الآن ما حد قاعد يتكلم عليه كتول of storytelling, which is not. VR is a tool for an environment. It's a tool for a psychological experience. صح، أنا معك. وممكن تستخدمها بالطريقة هذه. أيوة ممكن تستخدمها بالطريقة هذه، وأنا شفت يعني بعض الأعمال بهالطريقة وكانت effective، كانت جدا مؤثرة. ولكن هل هذه سينما؟ يعني هل هذا هو سرد سينمائي؟ لا، هو مش سرد سينمائي، هو شيء آخر. فهل في يوم من الأيام ممكن التكنولوجيا توصل بشكل ما إن هي تكون فعل أصيل للسرد السينمائي؟ أنا أشك، لأنه مو شايف كيف ممكن يصير. يعني خاصة اللي يقول لك والله لا، ما هو جربنا الانتراكتيف. ما هو الانتراكتيف is not storytelling. الانتراكتيف أنت قاعد تعطيني لعبة كأنه هو جيم. يعني أنا كمخرج عندي قصة أريد أحكيها لك، حكيتها لك، خلاص خلصنا، هاي الفيلم بدايته وهاي نهايته. إذا أنا أعطيك أوبشنز صار مو بسرد سينمائي anymore، صار فيديو جيم. فأجين إذا نسمي الأشياء بمسمياتها، إذا هم قاعدين يتكلموا على الموضوع إن إحنا بنستخدم هذه التكنولوجيا باعتبارها فيديو جيم، وناخذ بالعكس، هو مو بأن الفي آر هو اللي قاعد يفيد السينما، السينما هي اللي قاعدة تفيد الفي آر. فاهم قصدي؟ فاللبس هذا أنا يعني مش متخيل إيش قد فيه حتى مهرجانات كبيرة قاعدة تدخل في الموضوع كأنه يعني this is the new thing. ما أدري كيف قاعدين يفكرون. It's totally يعني misconception. بس اللي حابة أعلق عليه وكيم يعني يكلمك على فكرة الاتنشن سبان، التركيز القليل اللي هو صاير فعلا آفة في هذا الزمن. لكن هو بقدرة قادر طلع شيء بوزيتيف، فراح قال لك لا، ما هذا انتم تستفيدون منه في الافلام القصيره.
اي بالضبط.
وصراحه كلامه صح يعني. والله كلامك صح يعني. اذا فعلا في حد ممكن يكون يحاول يخطط خطه معينه كذي للاستفاده من هذا الشيء، ونروح اكستريم يعني وايد اكستريم، فكره ان انت كيف ممكن فعلا تستفيد من كولكشن من شورت فيلمز، خلينا نقول 5 إلى 7 دقائق، وتجذب هذه الفئه من الناس اللي هي الاجيال الجديده، اللي هو ما بالنسبه لنا يشوف فيلم 20 دقيقه هاي مشكله. طيب خلاص مو ب 20 دقيقه، تعال شوف كولكشن اوف افلام كل واحد 5 دقائق. وهذه ترجع للنقطه اللي انت قلتها عبد الله عن فكره ان كيف نتجاوز المراحل القادمه. بعد علق عليها شويه صالح، اللي هي وخديجه لما كنا نتكلم على فكره الاديوكيشن. صالح قال فكره الماركتينج ايضا، وهي اعتقد جدا مهمه. لكن الماركتينج مش بمعناه العام. يعني احنا الى الان انا احس ما زلنا في بوتقه يعني مثل ما قال ايمن من شوي، فكره الاستجداء حتى السينمائي. يعني احنا يعني مساكين فيلم ميكر، تعالوا شوفوا افلامنا، تعالوا شوفوا ما ادري كيف، يعني افلام من الوطن العربي وين بتشوفونها، تعالوا شوفوا ما ادري وين، كلها بهالتون، هالنبره هذه. اعتقد لازم نتجاوز هذا. عادي، اي ثينك انه هو مقبول في المرحله هذه، لانه فعلا شيء جديد. والمهم بالنسبه للشخص الطبيعي العادي اللي في الشارع، مو بانه والله الفيلم عن شو بالدرجه الاولى، لا، هو انه يبغى يشوف نفسه. فكونك ان انت تقول له والله هذه افلام من ارضك، هذه يمكن تكفي فعلا في المرحله اللي احنا فيها. لكن بعد شوي لازم نتجاوز الموضوع الى التصنيف، بمعنى انه والله تعالوا شوفوا مجموعه من الافلام عن العائله، مجموعه من الافلام عن الحب، مجموعه من الافلام عن الحرب. لازم هذا يبدا نشتغل عليه شويه، وهذا طبعا ما راح يصير لما يكون عندنا افلام كذي. بس يعني هي في النهايه عمليه تكامليه.
بلشنا وبنقدر نكمل بالموضوع اكيد.
مثل ما قال نواف، لانه remember لما عبد الله عملنا الفيلم about stuttering and then we had the therapist and the lady people who stutter came to NYU.
Yes.
So I would definitely go with what Saleh and Nawaf create a theme.
بالضبط.
I remember when we did the stutter in NYU, people flocked into the short film and stayed for the talk about stuttering, which actually,
I remember.
And people came and they're like, we didn't know about stuttering. Thank you for educating us. Oh, it was great to listen to the therapist. والله عندي cousin من زمان كان stuttering متلعثم ما كنا عارفين إيش بو. an event marketing team يسوي لك event للشورت فيلم، مش بس والله جايين نحضر 15 minutes ونمشي.
بالضبط. Nawaf, أول شيء بدي أشكرك because you kind of summarized the summary that I was supposed to make, so thank you for that.
أفكارك.
أول شيء بدي أتشكركم كلياتكم لوقتكم اليوم and the brilliant questions we had from the audiences كانت عن جد كثير مفيدة للحوار. بعتقد بالنهاية بس حابب أعمل summary إنه أهم شيء اكتشفناه اليوم إنه education مش بس للأطفال والaudiences بس كمان للبلاتفورم سواء كانت السينمات أو التي في نتورك، وللفيلم ميكرز نفسهم، للفيلم ميكر سوسايتي والكوميونتي نفسها، بحيث إنه يصير في تقبل أكثر لموضوع الشورت فيلم كجونرا محددة، مش بس كعتبة towards فيلم فيتشر فيلم قصدي. وأهم شيء إنه في عنا كثير حلول ممكن نعمل فيها مونتيزيشن للأفلام القصيرة، سواء كانت عروض بشكل themes and categories بالسينمات أو أونلاين سكرينينج. ممكن يتم البحث فيها هيدي أكثر. مش بس عم بعمل ماركتينج لنواف، بس في his new platform Cineolio. So hopefully you can share more information on our platform on Silverline, and we'll be able to take our members on a journey inshallah soon when you're ready of course.
اكيد من عينيا، بس يعني ليه ما اسوي كذي، اتمنى كل حد بس يحاول يلقي نظره على الموقع cineolio.com. في مجموعه من الافلام القصيره من حول العالم اوريدي موجوده هناك، وقريبا يعني راح تدخل مجموعه اخرى.
شكرا كثير، يعطيكم العافيه وتصبحوا على خير.
مشكورين.
شكرا جزيلا.
سلامة، فرصة سعيدة.
السلام.